Maybe I'll have that joy. One thing we take for granted a lot is time. How many of you know time is not a renewable resource? It's one of the few things in life that when it's gone, right? Every second we waste is a second lost, and we can't gain it back. I was talking to a guy this week, really sad. He was grieving. He lost a loved one really close to him. And I just kind of leaned into that and tell me about your grief, tell me about your hurt. And what he started to share with me was actually kind of interesting. He actually didn't talk about the person who was lost. And I was like, so what is it exactly you're grieving? And he says, I wish I would have spent a little more time visiting. Wow, so you have grief about loss, but now you have guilt, which we thought was grief, but it's really guilt and shame. And he said, my wife kept telling me to visit. And I kept saying, no, in his head, right? The guy's young, we got time. And that's what he kept saying. I got time. I'm too busy. I can't. It was like one of his best friends. And then the guy died traumatically, unexpectedly. And now he's sitting here thinking, man, if I would have just made time, if I would have just been intentional. And that's the problem, right? When we focus on what we don't have, when we forget what we have in life, we stop living intentional with it and about it. Everything you have has been given to you by God. That means you're a steward of what belongs to God, and He's entrusted it to you. And you know what? You're a good steward, but the first, right? And the first step to being a good steward is don't forget you have it. Don't forget it. Because if you forget it, you can't value it. And if you don't value it, you don't invest in it. And you're not intentional with it. So he wasn't a good steward with his time. And so many of us, we've lost time with God, right? Oh, I'll serve tomorrow. God has been putting in my heart to serve, to make a difference, right? Those existential needs, right? I want my life to matter. I want to be part of something greater. But I have tomorrow. What if you're not guaranteed that you have tomorrow? And I got to go there. And then it's like, you know what? There's more in this life. There's more than just being satisfied with what I have. And maybe that's a truth, right? I mean, there is more in this life. But the lie in that is the more my focus is outside, the less I appreciate what's inside. The more my focus is on what I don't have, the more I want someone else's life, and the less I'm satisfied with my own life. Then the things I once prayed for, the things I was once blessed by, I no longer feel blessed by because I took my eyes off of them, I forgot about them, and all as I focus in on is what's missing in my life. It's what's missing in my life. And that's how easy it actually happens, because the reality is we are social creatures. And what happens around us socially, if we're not paying attention, subconsciously, we're like sheep just following the guy in front of us. And if the world is bombarding us with, man, you don't have enough, you need this to be happy, we find that we're chasing people and relationships and things and money and stuff and career. And then when we get there, it's like, I celebrated, and when the celebration wears off, even that didn't do it for you. I find myself with more, but unhappy. So then we buy more. Debt increases. I have more, but I'm less happy. We're social creatures. And so what does a wise person do? You got to be in the know to say, this is where the world is pulling me. And if I allow myself to follow the guy in front of me and not be different and not work on self-care and not practice gratitude and appreciation and look at the things I actually have, I'm always going to look at my empty hand instead of my full hand.